Welcome, everyone, to the Special Education Inner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Witcher, and today I have with me 4 Master IEP coaches who are really going to talk about what we can do through this high level of stress and anxiety that's happening right now in special education. Master IEP coaches are parents, teachers, admins, therapists who have trained to build IEPs that work in the real world. What they're going to discuss with you today is definitely applicable for where you are and where you stand in your current education system. So whether you're hybrid, you're virtual, you're full in person, no matter where you're at in the country, this is going to be for you. So I'm going to welcome Suri, Amy, Diana, and Bernie to just start the conversation. And if you're here with us live, go ahead and post some questions below. If you're listening on the podcast, you'll be able to find links in the show notes of how to reach a Master IEP coach or reach directly out to me. So let's go ahead and get started. Diana, will you go first and share with us who you are, how you ended up at an IEP table, and what is your big step for everybody who's at the IEP table during this high stress time? Hang on, we got to unmute you. That we just said that's the word of 2021. So for everybody, like, you're on mute, like yep, we got it. I think we're good now.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for having me today, Catherine. I'm Diana, and I've been an IEP coach for a couple years now, and I have a son who is, he's a teenager now and has an IEP. And so I got introduced to special education kind of fast and dirty, because I had no idea whenever I started out what was going on. My first experience at an IEP table was like sitting in a foreign film without subtitles. And over the first couple of years, it was, pretty bad. We had a lot of unfortunate experiences with the school district, and we ended up getting an out-of-district placement for my son, which has turned out to be an awesome thing. So one of the things that I really concentrate with a lot of parents is placement issues, and that doesn't always mean an out-of-district placement. Sometimes that's just making some tweaks within the classroom. But I really wanted to talk to you today about using your big voice with the IEP team. A lot of times, even contacting the IEP team brings stress to families. Parents don't want to reach out. They're kind of afraid to rock the boat, or, they just don't know what to say. So my thing is, use your big voice. And when I say big voice, what that doesn't mean. It doesn't mean yelling. It doesn't mean demanding. It doesn't mean threatening or bullying, because as soon as you yell at somebody, they stop listening to you. So that's not effective at all. Demanding and threatening, we never want to threaten somebody to do what they should be doing anyway. And bullying, that's never a good thing to do. So when I say use your big voice, there are 4 areas, that I like to concentrate on. The first one is confidence. Approach them with confidence. You are an equal member of that team, so act like it. And in order to get that confidence, you should be prepared. Being prepared, there are different ways you can do that. One of them is by preparing a parent input statement and updating that as often as needed. You don't just have to update that during, your annual review. Anytime any information changes, anytime you have new concerns or something changes with your child, you should be definitely updating those parental input statements. Another way to be prepared is by gathering your own data on the issues that you have concerns about. So that could be gathering communications from the schools, any kind of notes or things like that, work samples. If your child's working virtually, that could be your own description of what is happening at home. The teachers aren't able to see that. So those are things you should be writing down and recording. Another thing that you need to do is come with intention. Know what you want the outcome to be. So instead of just, giving a concern to the IEP team, know what you want to get from that. So know your intention. And the last thing is come with respect, because whenever you work with respect and collaboration with that team, they know that you are just as concerned about working on this as a team. You want your team to know that you appreciate them and appreciate all the work that you're doing, because you're feeling that stress. They're feeling it too. They've got, different schedules to work on. They've got, different, they've got to make adjustments to their routines as well. So definitely bring that respect, and you should be able to see some progress with your communication.
Absolutely. And what I love is how you started this out. You said using your big voice, it doesn't mean always being the loudest or the angriest or that. And I want teachers to hear really clearly that you said a lot of times you have to encourage parents to use their big voice because they're afraid to reach out. And, as a teacher, from that perspective, a lot of times if I heard somebody say, oh, they're telling a parent to use their big voice, and I would say all parents are using their big voice. Well, because those are the parents that you're hearing from. Those are the angry parents who are kind of following this trend in special education that we've had for decades of be the loudest in the room to get any results. And really, using your big voice means stepping up and using strategy that work for team collaboration. So I love that you have that twist on there and that you can be strong and intentional and diligent and make all that work. Thank you so much, Diana. Let's go ahead and Bernie, let's talk about how did you end up at an IEP table, and what is your encouragement during this high stress time for IEP team members?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me. I ended up at an IEP table because my oldest, who's now 11, I started seeing kind of red flags when he was about 2.5. When he started preschool, I asked the preschool teacher to give me her opinion if she thought she saw red flags, because I didn't know if I was overreacting. And she definitely, was like, there are some things here, let's get him evaluated. Our IEP journey started in preschool, and it was somewhat of a difficult journey at the beginning. I was a newbie to special ed, so I had no idea what was going on, and I was really naive to a lot of things. So I was, like many parents, kind of just trusting the district and the school and the staff that everything they said or everything that I was supposed to get from them, was correct. And in fact, I was missing information, and he wasn't really getting everything that he needed, I guess you could say. So I kind of felt like a gut feeling that there was more than I was given. I mean, I just kept pushing and kept pushing. And I think until kindergarten, after kindergarten, the journey got smoother. But because of those 2 to 3 years that we had to struggle with, I felt the need to learn more on IEPs and special education. And if I had trouble going through the district, speaking English and being able to communicate, how many other parents are not having these struggles, especially parents who English is not their first language, or parents that don't know how to speak up for themselves and advocate for their children. So that's how I ended up at becoming an IEP coach. My tip for today is there's so much going on in the world right now, so much going on in our country right now, all the stress, anxiety on top of distance learning. I feel like a lot of parents probably forget to write things down, especially quick conversations that you might have with your classroom teacher or your inclusion teacher, your therapist. Just little comments here and there that are being said. Parents, I feel, are forgetting to write that down, because it's just a quick conversation, and you might think, oh, I'm going to remember it, or they're going to remember it because we just had that conversation, or we've talked about it a number of times, we've mentioned it. I've mentioned it to her 3 times, so she should remember. But in fact, it is very important that every single time you have that conversation, every single time you make a comment, to have it written down. um, I like to have a journal, and in that journal, just write down. It's probably old school to have pen and paper, but open that journal, write down the date, what happened, and sometimes even the time. Follow it up with an email. So you have your paper trail, you have your notebook with everything that's going on, with all your conversations, so that later on, if things don't follow through, even if you mention to the therapist 3, 4, 5, 10 times about something, you have it down. You have it written down that you've said it to them, you had that conversation, and you can go back um, and you have your paper trail to follow with.
It's so important. And, we do a lot of recapping conversations and emails between the teams, right? So we're like, oh, we said this at drop off, or, we talked about this last week. Is this being followed through? But that old school journal is so important too, because there's sometimes where, you're thinking, I'm not going to recap this one. It'll be just fine. But then you're going to find yourself. I always tell parents and teachers to listen to yourself. And the minute that you hear yourself saying, I can't believe this wasn't done because she said whatever. She said we would implement the flexible seating. She said we would have a different login for this class. She said this. Did you write it down? Did you recap it? Like, do you have a copy? Do you know when it happened? Did you confirm with her in writing? Because, so it's always, if she said something, or that professional said something, or the mom even said something, you have to write it down. Otherwise, it really didn't happen. Like, there's no accountability in that. And it's not that we're trying to throw somebody under the bus. It's just, there's a lot of moving pieces in special education. I mean, that's just how it is. So I love that piece. And when you're having these kind of discussions and different things that are happening in special education, we have to open up some new conversations. And that's going to lead into Amy. And I want Amy to share with you how she ended up at an IEP table, and a strategy that she has for you. Again, in this high stress time, it's time to look at things a little bit differently. So Amy, thank you for being here with us.
Hi, my name is Amy, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I come to the IEP table from many different views. I worked in special education for many years as an aide, as a sub, as a teacher. I then subsequently had a child who had a medical disability that moved on to having educational delays. So I've seen it from the parent perspective. And since she's had a solid organ transplant, I've also seen life's perspective on how we need to accomplish things. So yes, I agree with the big girl voice. I love that. But we need to figure out the flexibility and making sure that we're not using our big girl voice too often. I think Diana mentioned that. And then also we need to make sure that we're keeping track of things. Being flexible means we see the big picture. Is it really imperative that has to be worked on right now? We have COVID. Let's take a step back. Let's be flexible. Let's realize we aren't, as humans and adults, accomplishing what we need to accomplish because of the stress, because of all that stuff. Let's be flexible and realistic. Doesn't mean we have to give up. It means that we need to realize that the other side of the table, along with our side, we're all working for that person in the middle of the table.
Absolutely. So being flexible is a huge piece of special education at all times, but even more so right now. That also means that you can be inflexible on some things. There's some non-negotiables for sure. In fact, we were just talking about a few things. So because you have some classroom experience and you are helping children access their education and those type of things, can you share, like we were talking about an example of speech therapy or that of where like you can't be flexible in giving up speech therapy, but we might have to implement that different. I'm assuming that you have experience having seen that inside the special education classroom, that we're always making adaptations like that, right, Amy?
Absolutely. If your child doesn't want to, or your student doesn't want to go to the therapy room, let's have therapy right here in the middle of the hallway where the desks are at. Let's discuss why you don't want to go to the therapy room. That can be speech and language right there on the spot, real world, using your experiences to be flexible and get through the situation. Nobody's having fun these days, and it's okay. We just need to figure out how to move through it as a team, as a community, and get our children where we see them eventually at the age of 22.
I love that you just said nobody's having fun right now.
Nobody
Let's
is.
just call it out. Let's just call it out. This is not fun. This is not fun. This is serious stuff during a not fun time. And that's where all this stress and anxiety, and we're thinking about age 22 and where do they need to get and how are we going to get there? And you know what? It's by not doing things the way that we had been doing things. I mean, we can't right now in many situations, but we should never go back to a lot of the things that we were doing in special education in the past. There's a lot of things that need to change, and that starts with deciding what's important, what's not important, or how do we get this done, and having that flexibility in there. So I love that so much. So let's see what Surrey has for us here, and then we're gonna go back around with everybody because I always have to bring one question that you guys don't know I'm gonna ask, so I can get the truth about what you really think about special education when it comes to certain things. But let's first start with Surrey. Thank you for being here. Please let us know, how did you end up at an IEP table, and what is your strategy for this high stress situation right now? Hang on, we're gonna unmute Surrey. There we go. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I came to the IEP table as a student myself, and in multiple different forms. So I was a professional, I was an ABA therapist, I was a program manager. I have a son who has a 504 plan. So I've come at it with multiple perspectives. My tip for this world that we're living in right now is to be open-minded and work together with a collaboration process. We've all said that we need to come together. Now more than ever, we have parents that are actually sitting down and working with the kids. We need a plan, and we need the parents' involvement in that plan. So my tip is to come to the table having an open mind, thinking about different ways to take data, thinking about the overall plan is to help our kiddos reach independence at the age of 22. So how are we really looking at that? What are our goals to reach that? Should we have more independent goals at home? What should parents be taking data on at home and in the classroom? We have to start looking at the different pictures and putting the pieces together.
It's so important to make sure that we don't ever lose this perspective that we have right now, with parents knowing more about what's happening in their child's school day than ever before.
Yes.
And it's been very scary for a lot of people. It's been scary for parents. It's been scary for teachers. It's been scary for administrators. It's scary to really kind of strip away all the smoke and mirrors of, my child goes to school and I'm pretty sure these 3 things happen every day. Now we see a lot of these things. So to be able to collaborate and, as you said, like, find different ways to take data and look at this real world and make sure that we're preparing a child for it in a collaborative way, because we have more information than, I'm just going to say it, we have more information than we ever wanted about what's really happening. So it's super important for us to not lose this perspective. So parents, it's hard to do all the things that you need to do and help your child do virtual schooling, in the same way that it's hard for teachers to be able to have, 10 different kids that each have 5 IEP goals. So there's 50 IEP goals that you're trying to fit into the day. So yes, teachers are typically not multitasking in the same way as a parent, but they are multitasking in some way where they're balancing different things at different times. And there should be a new level of respect for each side. So like when teachers are seeing inside of the child's home through the Zoom meeting that like mom's trying to prompt the kid to sit at the table and the child literally just kicked her or bit her or threw, themselves on the floor, that it's not because mom wasn't trying. It's because she was. And that's, again, a new piece of data that we have that we can collaborate on with that. So, all right, let's go back around our virtual room right here. And I would love for you guys to share something that, and if I have to go first, I will, so I can give you guys some time to speak. But if you don't, so I can see you guys. When you guys are going to watch this on the podcast, you can't see this, but I can see if they literally raise their hand with that. What is one thing in special education that you hope disappears, goes away, or never goes back to the way that it was from before all of this happened? Like, that's the way that we can find silver linings. So is there something that you're just like, you know what, this is how it was done before, and we're not doing that now. And when we get back into school or when we get back into a routine, I hope this never happens again. So I kind of gave something that like, I hope that we never lose the perspective of how much multitasking everybody is doing right now in that way. Does somebody have something that they wish that they just hope that it disappears? Diana has one. What do you hope disappears forever, Diana?
Cookie cutter placement.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, so explain what you mean by that.
I'm seeing a lot of, I was saying, they're getting better about this now, but whenever we went virtual, a lot of people kind of freaked out because of expectations of placement and what they thought placement should look like. And we know, all of us know, that there's a full continuum of placement, and it could look like anything. There's this big spectrum and all of these really neat things that we can do about placement. But having that, when I say cookie cutter placement, a lot of people just have in mind that it can be either this or that. And we know now that it doesn't need to be this or that. And we've been very creative and very, open-minded about, how we view placement. So I really hope and really feel that going forward that we can continue that.
I love that so much. Does anybody else have something else that they hope disappears forever? I see Bernie has her hand up. All right, go ahead, Bernie.
I guess it ties a little with, ties into the tip I had earlier about writing things down. Lack of communication. I feel like before we went into distance learning, there wasn't as much communication between team and parents. With distance learning, I feel that there has been more communication with the team and the parents to a certain point, because being at home with your child, you're seeing a whole lot more. You're seeing things differently. And so you're reaching out to the team, you're reaching out to the classroom teacher, you're reaching out to, there's more emails going back and forth to a certain point. And so I'd like for that amount of communication to continue after all of this, because I know that when kids are in-person learning, there's often that, it's okay, things are going good. You don't check in as much because you feel that you trust your teacher, you trust your team. And even if you do have somewhat, good communication, you don't often talk to each other very much about what's going on. And so I think.
Yes. Just yes to all of that. Yes to everybody keeping open communication. I feel like we have a lot of teams, although there may be some anger and things still happening in special education, I am seeing more compassion when it comes to the communication and a bit more understanding when the communication is coming through. So I hope that continued communication happens and it doesn't become such a, this is school and this is home type barrier up there. All right. Amy, do you have something for us?
Absolutely. I'd like to see less curriculum-based goals and more life skills goals. I think that the pandemic has shown the parents Oh, wait, I help with the backpack. Oh, wait, I'm helping with the jacket. Oh, wait, I'm helping with the technology. What can they do independently? And I think that goes with the collaboration, is making sure that we're all focused on the future and things running smoothly, and not forgetting the independence is little itty bitty steps that we can do.
Absolutely. I'm going to actually give a shout out to one of our sponsors of the Master IEP Coach program, and that's N2Y. And the reason I bring them up, for those of you that can't see, Amy just clapped her hands, like literally just clapped her hands for that, because N2Y is an online curriculum provider in special education, and they have a huge focus on real life skills and pairing things up to current events and making sure that things are applicable and being able to modify things to a child's ability level, and not just a standardized curriculum that we try our best to fit to a child, but actually customizing the whole curriculum plan to preparing a child for further education, employment, and independent living. So a big shout out. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about when I say N2Y, it's N as in Nancy, and then the number 2, and then Y, just the letter Y. If you don't know, make sure that you reach out and say, what is this N2Y thing? And we'll make sure to get you connected. Like I said, they are a big supporter of the Master IEP Coach program, which we love, because they are on the same mission of bringing the team together with accountability and integrity and communication by preparing children for the real world. So there are resources out there. You do not have to figure it out. If you just heard Amy's tip and you're like, yes, I want that too, let me start from scratch with a Google search. Don't. You will lose hours and days of things. So just reach out to us. And all right, Suri, tell us, what do you hope goes away forever?
Well, I wanted what Amy was going to say too, but the collaboration component, I feel like now school districts understand that parents are a key to the IEP, and without parent input, we can't make goals for our kids' educations and the lifelong goals. We have to have that parent input.
You have to. So like, I would love to see, let's see, I'm going to steal Diana's word where she said cookie cutter parent input statements that say things like, you know, the parent is worried about the child not finishing their lunch, or the parent is worried about the child, and it's something that's not relevant to the true IEP core content of, we can't have things like the parent is worried that they won't be in class next year with their best friend. Like, that was a side comment the parent made at the IEP meeting. That's not their real concern. The real concern is social, emotional communication and behavior. That's why the mom's worried about the best friend, is because her child is struggling with social, emotional behaviors, communication, and all those things. So no more cookie cutter parent input statements. Yes, let's do that. We actually have we have one comment and one question that I'm going to go ahead and address here, because I love when you guys participate live during this recording. So we have Elena, who has said, I used my big voice respectfully, but couldn't get any meaningful action done. We ended up getting an advocate. We're now in a better place and have a much better relationship with some of the previous schools that her child attended. So an advocate does not have to be a scary thing. An advocate does not have to break relationships. A lot of times that's the thought process. Us here in our world, we call ourselves master IEP coaches because we have trained different than a traditional advocate. I'm going to put Diana on the spot because she is a practicing master IEP coach in that way. Diana, could you tell us, in your experience being a master IEP coach and having been through this system for your child, and that, what is one of the biggest difference between perhaps a master IEP coach and a traditional advocate?
So what my experience is that we concentrate on the whole team. We need to look at every aspect of the child's education, the child, the team, the parent, everything together. And if we're not all working together, and that's all not, coming together very well, then we're not going to have any solution for the child. We're a traditional advocate. The ones that I've experienced are just more concerned with following the rules, making sure that everybody is, doing what they should be doing. And we kind of take more creative and cohesive approach to things.
I love how you said that, because that's definitely, I say, a lot of times traditional advocates work on like what has to be done according to the law, force your hand, do it even if you don't like it, kind of thing.
Right.
Now there's some things again that's true. That's going to have to.
We got to do what we got to do. But there's a way to do it and a way not to do it.
Absolutely, there is, and it's like let's follow the rules, but. Quite honestly, I'm just going to kind of call it out here to everybody. Our special ed law is not that intense. Like there's some basics. It's like, we need basic things, food, clothing, shelter, right? Like we need some basic things. The special ed law is kind of like that. It's basic. It's saying appropriate education, meet a child's unique needs, prepare them for the future. Now, how you get that done and how you approach it and what materials you use and what the team looks like and what the placement looks like, there's not one right answer. There's multiple answers for a child, and there's a creative way to get that. So I love that you said we look at this big picture, because it is about doing what is achievable with the entire team versus forcing something that just because some version of that is written down somewhere and it was done that way at one time, that we now have to force everybody to do it this way. Like that's just not where we're at. So I have a comment here from Shantae that I want to address, because she's not the only one. I just chuckle a little bit because she's not the only one who's struggling with this. Here's what's happening. They had a virtual IEP meeting, and she is very used to getting hands-on paperwork. Everybody has showed up. Everybody has signed the paperwork. You have the meeting. Then you walk away with a signed piece of paper. And she wants the signed piece of paper. And her district is like, no, we're doing everything electronically. So you can't have the signed paper. We've all basically signed it electronically. Amy's raising her hand right now where she's like, let me talk about this right now. Because I'll tell you right now, Shantae, you can continue to ask, and there is a way. But Amy, do you want to add to this?
They can send it to her electronically with the signatures on it. Ask for the electronic copy with the signatures on it. They, 100% can send it to you. If you don't have access to a printer, say that you need to have it given to you in paper because you don't have a printer. They can send it to you with everyone's signature on it.
Shantae, here, I'll even give you, so this is what we do as Master IEP coaches. We say things such as, this is one of our terms that we love to use, such as, like when we're talking to a district and we're bringing a suggestion, instead of saying you have to do things this way, we say you could consider something such as. So I'm going to, if they don't want to sign on it, they only want to send a copy, but they don't want to sign off. So here's the thing. First of all, in most states, there is no like signing off. What you're talking about is the signing in sheet. The signing in of attendance. And that signing in of attendance was probably already documented on there. So Shantae's like, I got the law book. I know that they have to give me this. Just know that I'll give you an example. In the state of Illinois, everybody signs attendance that we've been there, but there is no signing the IEP of I approve. There's only proof of attendance. So the whole point of the signatures in each state is to prove attendance. And then a lot of times there are states that have things like signing off for different services or different things that are going to happen, towards the end of the meeting, kind of miscellaneous paperwork I'm going to talk about. So Shantae says, I'm in North Carolina. North Carolina, like, Surrey, do you have I have experience in North Carolina. Surrey, do you have experience in North Carolina? Would you like to speak specifically?
That's my home state where I am right now. It is a mess over there. My suggestion for you is to have the school district print it out and leave it a copy for you at the office. They have the ability to print it. They will print it for you. But it's probably in your best interest to talk to one of us master IEP coaches. There's a couple of us that are in North Carolina. It is a mess.
Yeah, it is mess. And you know, so here's the thing. This is when people say we don't know how, like we can't get you the exact signature thing. And maybe Shantae, you're really just looking for that sign-in sheet, that you want something that looks like it did before. You want something that looks like that. Would it be okay if the school gave you a cover letter that said something such as, see, I'm not going to tell them what to write. I'm going to give them a suggestion of what to write, such as, I'm just clarifying that we held a meeting on January 5th for so-and-so, and the following people were in attendance. They could list the staff members, and then the special ed director, whoever ran that meeting, could sign it. And that would be verification of who was at the meeting. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for verification of who would be at the meeting. They can give you that one piece. They can print everything out. They can do digital signatures through something like Dropbox. I mean, there's a lot of different options for this, but what is your end result, Shantae? I want to go back to what Diana talked about in the very beginning of your intention. So if you're bringing an issue to them, what is your desired outcome? Like, what's your intention of this? Because what I'm seeing is they always assign the IEP to let me know who was there. And we're running IEP meetings differently. So if that's what you need to know is who is there and you need that verified, you can do that. Suri, did you want to add one last thing in there?
I don't know if she's asking for the qualification. So does she agree with the IEP? Because there is a part on the North Carolina ones where you can say, do you agree or not agree? So I'm not sure if that's the part that she's looking for.
Right. So I don't even think that she's looking for that piece. It says that she just wants to know who was there. She just wants verification of who was there. So
they'll be able to print it.
Yeah. And if you want an additional kind of person who is at the school to give you some actual pen to paper initials saying like that they're verifying that, yes, these people were there, they can do that for you. So Shantae just said, this is why she's reached out, because that's what we do. We help people go through these situations, and that's exactly what we are working on. It's what we love to do. So on that note, please make sure that you leave a comment below. You can also head over to myiepcoach.com. At myiepcoach.com, you can fill out a form and say, hey, I heard Suri or Diana or Amy or Bernie on the podcast, and I want to talk to somebody about whatever your concern is. We can get you connected with that. If you're watching and listening and you're thinking, I don't want just help. I want to be able to do this myself. Like I want to get in on this Master IEP Coach thing. Head over to masteriepcoach.com and you'll get the information on the training, what we do, how we teach it, how you can become part of our community and then work behind the scenes with just really awesome people. I mean, that's who our Master IEP coaches, Diana and Suri and Amy and Bernie, they are looking for the best solutions through some of the stickiest times that we are in right now, getting through all of this stress and anxiety. Just know that you guys are not alone. I just want to thank you guys again for being here. And until next time, just use your resources. Don't do this alone. Reach out, get unstuck, and we'll see you guys soon.